Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, you fantastic people, wherever you are. Welcome to Chibi Reads Reddit. I'm your host, DoomChibi99. Today's subreddit is r/entitled parents. So sit back, get cozy, grab a drink, and let's read. My girlfriend's 22F parents won't let her move out with me. 21 male. Basically, as the title says, but there's more backstory. My girlfriend and I want to move out in a few months, but are worried about her parents' reactions to it. We've been together for around 1 year now, but her parents don't know that her and I are dating, due to religious reasons. Her mom has been on and off about her moving out, sometimes saying it's fine and sometimes saying it's not fine until she's married. We're not sure how to tell her she's moving out, because we're not too sure on the reaction she'll give. Best case scenario, her mom says she won't talk to her anymore. Worst case, she physically doesn't let her move out. I guess our question is, has anyone had experience with moving out when the parent will genuinely not allow it? And how did you go about packing and leaving with your things whilst avoiding your parents? Caught in a web of lies. How do I tell my strict mom about my secret boyfriend? I really want to tell my mom about my boyfriend. I feel like it would be beneficial, not just for me, but for her as well. Whenever we hang out, I have to lie about where I am, making up excuses just to spend time with him. Sometimes I wonder if something were to happen to me, how would they even know the truth? It's also affecting our relationship because we can't do normal couple activities without me having to come up with a believable lie for my outings. I don't want to keep making up stories behind their backs. I want to come out and tell them, but it feels almost impossible. I'm 19 female and my boyfriend is 23 male. We met while we used to work together, and when we wanted to start seeing each other outside of work, I would lie and say I was going to school on Saturdays just to be with him. I used to go to school on Saturdays, so it seemed like a reasonable and believable excuse. When my mom was looking for someone to teach me how to drive, I introduced her to him, but only as a guy from work who was getting paid to teach me. The money she paid him for my driving lessons, he would give back to me, and he taught me how to drive for free. It also gave us time to hang out outside of work. At first, my mom wasn't fond of him. She just saw him as the guy who offered to teach me how to drive at a cheap price. She would always warn me that while he was teaching me, it should only be strictly professional, nothing more. Sometimes she questioned my progress, saying, "You've been learning to drive for a whole month, but you're not showing much improvement." She would even say, "Hopefully you're not doing anything else with this guy but driving." The truth is, we often used our driving lessons as an excuse to go on dates and make out instead. She's always suspected that I might be seeing someone, but she couldn't quite put her finger on it. For example, on Valentine's Day, I said I was at school when I was actually at the movies with him. He got me flowers, and since he's my first boyfriend, I wanted to keep them. Looking back, I should have just admired them and thrown them away before going home because it caused so much conflict. She was suspicious and asked who gave me the flowers. I lied and said some guy at school who was really into me gave them to me, and I only took them because I wanted to take pictures with them. But she wasn't buying it this time. She was pissed. I could tell, but she couldn't fully accuse me of anything. She just kept saying, "You think I'm so stupid, don't you?" After she calmed down a bit, I decided to tell her another secret I was hiding to cover up the bigger lie. I thought it was the best thing to do to reveal a smaller secret to distract her from the bigger one, so I told her that I had something to tell her. Her first guess was, "You have a boyfriend," to which I replied, "Why do you always have to think it's that?" I then revealed that I had a septum piercing, something she was against. She was disappointed but not as angry as I thought she'd be because it wasn't as bad as she expected. This has been going on for a while, and now that I know how to drive, she thinks I've stopped seeing him. After all, why would I still be in contact with him if it wasn't for driving lessons? If I were to suddenly introduce him as my boyfriend, especially since she suspected it once or twice before, it would seem like such a plot twist. She would feel betrayed and think I tricked her and played her right under her nose. How do I make this possible and acceptable? I really like him and want my mom to know about his role in my life. She doesn't have to fully accept him as if we're getting engaged tomorrow, but at least know the truth. I'm tired of the lies, stacking up on more lies, but I'm struggling to find a way to tell her without turning it into a disaster. I wish I could tell her. I wish it was easy to tell her sometimes. There's things I wish I could talk to my mother about, but I can't. Any advice? Entitled parent tries to steal my service dog and follows me home when she fails. Heads up, I have limited mobility on my hands, so this will be written to the best of my ability, but won't have pronunciation or little to none due to it being annoying to deal with. Labels. Entitled mom is EM, entitled kid is EK, Justin, my service dog, is J, and me, OP. So I live in a small town, and everyone knows someone who knows you or your friend. There's a town plaza type space in the middle of the town. It was the end of summer when I decided that I would walk into town with Justin and get some ice cream at a local shop. So I waddled down to the shop, Justin at my side. By the way, Justin is a mix between Pit Bull, German Shepherd Dog, and Lab. So he's a bit big, and he's black with brindle markings like a Rottie and white on his chest and white socks. Sounds cute. Anyway, I ordered a turtle-style sundae and a small vanilla cone for Justin. Me and him sit outside because it's a nice day. Then out of nowhere, Entitled Mother walks up to me and says, "Hey, would you mind if Entitled Kid pets your dog? He thinks he's absolutely adorable." I reply, "Sorry, no, he's working. Maybe if you catch me some other time." She looked at me like I shot her kid. She walked away to her table and stared at me the whole time I was sitting there, but every 10 minutes or so, I would have Entitled Kid pop up behind me or next to me, or literally anywhere around me and my dog. Eventually, I said, "Hey, Entitled Kid, you have to leave us alone. He has a job to do, and I need him to help me, and you distracting him isn't helping." By the time I was done eating, and so was Justin, As we got to leave, Entitled Mom comes back up to me and says, "We could really use a dog like that. So calm and friendly, and since he's a service dog, he can help with my panic attacks. How much do you want for him?" I just walked away, and she started after me, saying that I don't need him. She'd followed me for 10 minutes until she ran up in front of me and tried to steal the leash, until Justin snapped at her and she fell back and looked at me, and me and Justin hightailed it to the house. 5 minutes later, the doorbell rang, and Justin has 2 modes: working mode or house mode. Working mode is self-explanatory, but house mode is letting him be a dog at home, so he is going to guard the house because it's his house. So I put a leash on and opened the door, where the 2 of them were waiting, and before they could start, Justin started barking and lunging at them. Entitled Kid started crying just because Justin was barking in his face. And Entitled Mom yelled at me that, "How could you let him do that? He's such an aggressive dog. You shouldn't let him near people. If we see you in public with that dog, I'm gonna call the police." Then she left, and I shut the door, and Justin got a pig ear for being a good boy. But yeah, beware of Karens around your dogs. And cats, birds, snakes, any animal, a Karen will go after it. Protect your animals, people! Mother-in-law thinks she deserves to babysit her grandbabies. This is going to be a bit of a long one, but I need to vent this out because I'm so annoyed and literally infuriated, really. Let me start off by saying that I'm a very happy 29-year-old female living with my husband, Alex, 31, and our 4 kids, ages 7, 4, 2, and 1. My husband and I had pretty bad childhoods, but I have great contact with my parents, and when we still lived fairly near them, they would come and help out by cleaning the entire apartment, and overall were amazing. Meanwhile, his family is absolutely insane. His father is in jail, and his mom is just bat crap crazy. There's been so much insane drama with her that a few weeks ago, when we moved back to the UK from a different country, we went completely no contact with her. Alex has a sister and a brother. We don't talk with the brother, but are really close to his sister. She lives in London and is also no contact with my mother-in-law. She recently graduated from uni and she loves our kids, so that's great. Last time we heard from mother-in-law was 2 years ago, which was when we moved, but since then, everything's been calm. Now, time skip to just 3 weeks ago. I was recently looking through old photos and realized that Alex and I haven't gone on a proper date in ages. Once every 2 months, we used to take a weekend trip to the beach, mountains, city, etc. before we had kids. And even after our first, we stuck to the tradition and took baby with us. But after our second, we just didn't have time anymore. We were busy. Plus, we lived by the beach, so if we wanted a nice outing, we'd just take a 1-minute stroll out there and call it a day. But looking back at those photos really just brought back the nostalgia of time spent with just the two of us. And after talking with Alex, we decided it would be nice to maybe take a weekend trip down to France the following weekend. I mean. Sorry about that. I don't work, and Alex has a flexible schedule. We had to move a few things around, but overall, it wasn't that hard. His sister immediately agreed to come to look after our children, and the kids are excited to see their aunt. I was a bit sad to leave the babies, but knew it would be good for our relationship to have time just for ourselves. So, we were all ready for our trip. It was Wednesday, and we were set to go Friday evening. Alex was at work, and I was at home with the children when I heard the doorbell. I go and open the door, and there, standing with a smug grin on her face, is my mother-in-law. I was shocked, to say it the least, because how on earth did she find out our address? She doesn't even live in the same country as us, and yet, here she was. "Oh, is this the newest baby?" She pointed at my son, who I was holding. "I've never even met him." She practically pushed herself in and casually sat down in the living room while I tried to figure out what on earth to do. When I asked her why she was here, she tried to avoid the topic, and instead wanted to see the other kids and bond with them until Alex came home, but I wouldn't let her. It might sound rude to me, but as I said, she's done some incredibly toxic things in the past before and after I gave birth, so this was to protect our family. Like you do! Finally, she dropped the sweet grandma mask and revealed the true reason she was here, to persuade me into letting her spend the weekend with her grandkids. She somehow found out that we were going to France and leaving the kids with my sister-in-law, and she wasn't having it. She began saying sister-in-law was irresponsible and young and wouldn't manage to taking care of 4 young children for 2 whole nights. Meanwhile, mother-in-law explained she was experienced after raising 3 kids, so she would have no problem. Plus, she was already here. When I said no, she shifted her personality and became serious, which meant yelling at me and telling me that she had the right to see her grandbabies. And that she would call the police and demand grandparental rights. She claimed I was being abusive and neglectful for planning to leave my children alone for a whole weekend, that she'll call social services, and more crap like that. I was getting tired and asked her to leave, but she said she won't, and literally sat on the couch refusing to move. When I called Alex to come, he was not pleased and got into a heated argument with his mother, which resulted in her finally leaving. However, this whole thing is nuts because we cannot figure out how she found out our address or our weekend plans. Sister-in-law swears she didn't tell any relatives and only her colleagues and roommates knew. As for mother-in-law, she didn't fully leave. I have no idea where she's staying at the moment, but we see her driving a rental car outside our house constantly, as if she's a surveillance officer. It's so ridiculous, but scary at the same time because our 2 older children are constantly playing outside in the garden without supervision. And while we obviously have a fence and security cameras, it's still a scary thought that she might try to snatch one of them, even though Alex assures me that she wouldn't go that far. We ultimately canceled our trip due to the fear that she'd try to pull something while we're gone. We're just still trying to figure out how she found us, and we're just waiting for her to do something that would let us get a restraining order against her. She's a scary woman for sure. OP, you have every right to defend your kids, because I don't think it's over with mother-in-law. This is just getting started. It's escalating. And I would like to find out how she knew where you guys were. Racist mom harasses me and my family at IHOP. For any of you who don't know what that stands for, it's International House of Pancakes. They're mainly in the US. I, 19 female, along with my mom, 50 female, and older sister, 22 female, were eating at an IHOP at night. Lucky us, we were seated in a booth next to Karen, mid-40s? And her maybe 4-year-old son, aka the crotch goblin, with some other people dining with them who were not important. We got there at the tail end of their meal, but they were sitting and chatting as their waiter brought over the receipt. The entire time, the kid was peeking over the booth periodically, reaching out to grab my sister's or my hair. His hands were sticky with maple syrup, or bouncing so hard on the cushion that it shook our side. We didn't say anything, as it's generally not worth it to cause a scene to people who we thought were already leaving. We got our food and were taking pictures, as it was the Willy Wonka theme, and we're prone to taking pictures of unique experiences. I got this sparkly hot chocolate, and my mom and sister got this bucket of mimosas or some large alcoholic beverage to share. The family began to leave, and we kind of sighed a relief. The kid, however, stayed around as Karen was the last to leave. He peeked over at our table and looked at our food and tried to touch it, which we quickly moved our food away from. He stopped trying to touch it and instead began to cough directly at us, onto our food and us. I could feel a splat of kid saliva on my hand. My mom had enough, and at that point, she looked at Karen and asked her to mind her kid. Them's fighting words. Especially to a Karen. He is not sick, he just has asthma. As if coughing on our food would be okay if he wasn't sick? He's coughing on us. Move him. He's not sick. It's not that big of a deal. So you are okay if I spit on your food? How dare you! And then Karen throws a cup she stole from another diner's table full of hot coffee at my mom. Luckily it splashed onto the ground and didn't hurt anything. But my mom was livid at that point, and I had 911 dialed up and ready to go. My sister and I were periodically interjecting with curse words and defending our family. But my mom was already done with it. Karen stalked off with her kid, shouting for us to go back to China, you racial slur that starts with C, ends with K. Here, I shouted back that she should go back to wherever country she's the 2% off, and that real Americans don't need you here. Karen screamed at a server that we soon assumed that she personally knew that this is why COVID is so bad, because us racial slurs starting with the C, ending with the K, were bringing diseases. As she's stalking off, my mom got up, threw a fork at her back, and started to scream right back. I had 911 on call and listening in, and had the police come, giving the address of the IHOP, taking a picture of the Karen, everything I thought we might have needed. All the while, Karen was screaming that she had a child with her, and why would my mom be so violent and throwing more slurs and racist accusations at us? Like she didn't throw the first punch/cup of coffee. The Karen left. No one tried to stop her, as the cops weren't there yet, other than my mom, who was yelling that we would report her for this. We got moved to a different table and some replacements for food, which none of us had really eaten yet. Unfortunately, we didn't get a replacement for the mimosas, even though that was by far the most expensive thing. Because alcohol wasn't replaceable? My mom later complained about that too, because the staff did nothing to stop her from harassing us, didn't contact the authorities on their own, and some even seemed to know her on a personal level. In the middle of our mostly replaced meal, the cops came and got our statement, to which my mom absolutely said press charges. Turns out it's not so easy, and we're still in paperwork/reporting hell, but my mom is quite adamant on continuing on with it, as she hates being treated like a second-class citizen, especially in front of her family. We're not going back to that IHOP anymore. And I don't blame you. OP, your mom needs to go one level up. She needs to contact management and tell them that everyone at that IHOP was not doing their thing. They let the Karen run the show, and they were just complacent. They didn't do their jobs. Tell your mom. Report it to management. Or, like, the higher-ups. Looks like we've reached the end of today's video. But fret not, I'll be back tomorrow with more Reddit stories just for you. Want to get notified of the next video? Tap that bell icon. Want to subscribe? Tap the button. It's completely free. Anyways, that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching, and until next time, catch you later, my Chibi Dominators.